lesson 7, and we are going to be talking about major thirds and minor thirds today. But let's review a little bit before we get to the thirds. Let's review what we talked about last week, which was major seconds and minor seconds. Okay, so remember we count, intervals have two things that we need to pay attention to. That's the size and then the quality. Back my camera up here, sorry. Size and quality. So the size is always determined by the number of letters between the two notes, okay? So if we're in bass clef, okay, from D up to B, okay, D to B, we're going to count the number of letters between D and B going up, because this is the lower pitch on the left. And so we read left to right, just like we do for reading books and reading music. So D up to B. So D, remember, count the first letter as 1. D, E, F, G, A, B. 6 letters. So this interval here between these two letters is a 6th. Okay? So D to E. So we have D up to E. 2 letters, so this is a second. Now, we can have different kinds of seconds, or the quality of the second is either going to be major, a major second, or a minor second. So a major second has 2 half steps, okay? Or it's a whole step. 2 half steps, a whole step. A minor second is 1 half step, okay? So from D to E, think about it on your D string. So D and then E. Can you fit a finger in between D and E? The open D and then your first finger on the D string. Can you fit a finger there? Yes, you can fit another finger in between there, low 1, right? So from D to E, there's an E flat in between there. That is a major second because it's 2 half steps or it's a whole step. Okay, so minor thirds and major thirds are not that much different in how we think about them. So again, we're counting the letters, counting the first note as 1. So let's say we're on C. C, D, E. And notice that a third is a space to a space, okay? Space to the very next space. It also could be line to the very next line. So C to E, we know that it's a third because it's the 3 letters. Now, a minor third has 3 half steps. And a major third, you got it, has 4 half steps. Are you seeing a pattern here? Minor second, 1. Major second, 2. Minor third, 3. Major third, 4 half steps. Okay? So from C to E. So this is where I have put so many fingerboards in this worksheet so you can see how the seconds, how the half steps work. Okay? So C, go up a step. C sharp. So that's your first, up a half step. That's your first half step, okay? C sharp to D. That's your second half step. D to D sharp, low 1. That's your third half step. D sharp to E. That's your 4th half step. So C to E is a major third, okay? And we're going to put capital M for major, lowercase m for minor. You can do that for seconds as well. Okay, let's do another one. D to F. So D, E, F. It's a third. We figured out the size first. Okay, quality. So D to D sharp or E flat. D to E flat. I think of it as E flat maybe. You think of it as D sharp, but low one, in my brain, immediately it thinks of it as E flat. So D to E flat, that's 1 half step. E flat to E, 2 half steps. E to F, 3 half steps. So D to F is a minor third because it's 3 half steps. Okay? So this is the very scientific, you can't go wrong counting half steps. Okay? If you sit there and, I mean, you could really mess it up, I guess, but counting half steps is really going to be the way to get everything correct. Okay, now, there's another way that you can think about this, and that is in the key of C. Look at the bottom note. It doesn't matter what the key signature says, but in the key of C, do you have E naturals? If you're playing a C major scale, do you have an E natural? If you do, then it's a major third. Okay? If it falls in the key signature. Okay. In the key of D, do you have F naturals? No, we have F sharps. So you know it's not a major third, it's a minor third because this note is not in the key of D. Okay? Let's do another one. This way of thinking about your intervals, I did not put on your worksheet. But if you're watching the video, you can apply this to your worksheet. Okay, let's do B to D. Okay, so let's do this new way of thinking. In the key of B, do you have a D? Okay, so think through. In the key of B, B has 5 sharps. F, C, G, D, D, A. Okay, so in the key of B, you have a D sharp. So this is a minor third. Let's check it. B to C. Think of your G string, B to C. Cellos, B to C. There we go. B to C. Violins, violas on your G string. B to C is a half step. C to C sharp, 2 half steps. C sharp to D, 3 half steps. So B to D, 3 half steps, that's a minor third. Okay? So today on the worksheet, you're just doing minor thirds. You're going to draw them on the fingerboard. So I want you to be able to be thinking about thinking intervals on your fingerboard. Because all of this, I mean, it feels like worksheet right now. Like I'm just doing this, it's like math. But all of this applies to the pieces that you're playing as well. You're going to be playing major thirds and minor thirds as you're playing. They're in all the music that you're playing. You can figure it out. Find a piece that has a third in it and figure out if it's major or minor. And you're like, well, that doesn't really matter because I just play what's on the page anyway. Yeah, okay, that's what I said too. But then when you're going to go to improvise, if you're going to play jazz, if you're going to play anything where you're creating your own part, whether it's in church, if it's in a rock band, a jazz band, a bluegrass band, you're going to need to know major thirds and minor thirds. And thirds especially, more so than any of the other intervals when it comes to thinking in chords, okay? Because chords are built, triads are built on thirds, using major thirds and minor thirds. So this is a super important lesson if you're going to want to ever improvise or play in a band and create your own stuff. The other thing is maybe you're like, well, I don't want to. But I can just tell you that I have had many, many students come back after they get into college or out of college and they're like, oh, I wish I would have paid attention. I know you taught me this because now, you know, it's kind of cool to be able to do this. And I was a high schooler and thought, this doesn't matter, okay? So if you can just trust me, this does matter. It is important, and you should really learn major thirds and minor thirds. And be sure you don't just breeze through it, like think through it and make sure you understand it, okay? That's it for this week. And then next week we'll talk about fourths and fifths. See you next week. Have a great week.